reality, meaning does exist, you know? Awareness creates meaning, which is the interesting thing, actually. And meaning creates awareness. Anyway, so again, you see what I'm talking about. Everything leads into everything else. Like, describing it this way is like drinking from the fire hose, but, you know, whatever. You can't really help it. And other examples, actually, I'll just call up some of my favorites of things that we determined were fae. It's like we're listening to Ghost to Ghost, which is on Coast to Coast AM. I can hear the debunkers laughing now. Ha ha ha. Yeah, you hear a lot of weird stuff on that show, but you get people calling in, and if you're good at perceiving that kind of thing, you can tell most of them are completely on the up and up. They're just telling their really weird story. And what I find is cool is, again, if they give all the details, most of the details don't mean a damn thing to them, but they mean a lot to Chris and I, because we've heard them over and over and over again from different obscure sources, not the pop culture cliches, things like the checkered shirt, which, again, it doesn't show up everywhere, but it is a weird thing that occurs, and we finally realized, actually, again, I think honestly it is something to do with the Fae. Again, they seem to have, it's like a sign of their origin or something. I don't know why or how, but it's shown up again and again when we finally narrowed it down to, oh, this is a Fae. It's like, and he has a checkered shirt. Right, okay. Don't know what that means. It's still very curious. But one of them was a lady's story. This is just a particularly good example of what I'm talking about. She described, being on a road trip or whatever, driving along, and she almost had an accident because there was a guy lying in the middle of the road in a checkered shirt. And she said, he's lying there, and he kind of looked up, after she passed, like, sort of like, man, whatever. And she kept on going. And we were like, what the hell? That's a weird story. What the hell? And I think she'd basically gone right through him, she, because he wasn't really physically there. He was more like an image. And we were like, what the hell would that be? It doesn't make any sense. And then we were like, oh, it's a fae lying in the middle of the road trolling for people. Like trolling almost in the internet sense. If somebody sees him, they freak out and, might have an accident or whatever. So, I don't know if he's getting his jollies off of it or they actually get some sort of energy out of the person's emotion. But that's what they do. Like, we've seen it again and again and again. It's just bizarre. But that's what the little buggers do. Another scary thing about the Fae, now that we're discussing them, is, and this is completely in line with old fairy lore, which isn't really my area, it's more Chris's area, but they like to kill children. We've heard many stories, including some from people we actually know, firsthand, which, again, details that meant nothing to them. They just told us the story, and, like, oh yeah, this happened, blah, blah, blah. But one we heard, not from, I think this was on Ghost to Ghost at one point, or no, I can't really remember. But it was basically, again, it was a solid one. You could tell she was telling the truth. But she remembered as a child, these people came from her closet, and they were encouraging her to bite the electrical cord, that one of the cords in her room or whatever like that. And we've seen other examples of stuff like that. It basically, and again, I think if it fits the old model, that's how they carry off children. They don't really carry them off in a physical sense. They kill them, or rather they encourage them to meet misadventure, which of course totally fits with fairy lore, right? Like the water horse luring you into the pond, that kind of thing. Because that's all they can do. That's another thing, actually. That's a common question about ghosts, is can they hurt you? Typically, no. Actually, they can't do a damn thing. All they can do is scare you. They can only really... it's awareness. They can only really interact with you via awareness, so they can, freak you out. You might have weird sensations, whatever. But can they, rip out your throat with their spectral magic or something? Well, no. They're basically harmless. There are things that can hurt you, but even the nastiest things, mostly have to work through indirect means. Not really sure why. I mean, partially we know. partially it has to do with the fact that they're mostly, well, there are three types of stuff in the world. Chi, if you want to call it. There's matter, which is very dense chi. There's conventional radiation, energy, which is lighter, more diffuse chi. And there is, I'm still working on this part, but basically spirit, which is very, very diffuse chi, which is mostly just information. It's mostly meaning, awareness. And these weird paranormal things are mostly made out of that very light type of stuff. So they don't have a lot of physical punch. You know what I mean? They cannot like manifest like in a movie and kick your ass or anything like that. Typically not anyway. They can just mess with you via your mind. That's the only real issue. Of course, that can be serious. You can be driven nuts, and some people are. That has happened to a lot of people who investigate this type of stuff. They go crazy, So bit of a risk, but you don't have to physically worry about it. Even with the Fae, they don't really seem. Typically, they don't just up and kill you. They mess with you, like the guy lying in the middle of the road. He's trying to encourage you to have an accident, or at least have to swerve because you think there's somebody lying hit in the middle of the road. The various ones from that people encounter in childhood, some of which are very scary and malevolent seeming. Even they don't just up and kill you, and I don't honestly think they can. They scare you. They want to mess with you. If there's like a cliff nearby, they might try to scare you so you would fall off and die. But that seems to be the limit of their power, typically. So it's a freaky thing to think they're out there and they exist, and they do. But again, you don't really have to worry about being attacked by them physically, at the very least. So anyway, so ghost-wise, like I say, the Fae tend to get clumped in there, but they are a separate class of entity. Definitely. Like, we've determined that much anyway. There may even be two classes of Fae, which I still have not really worked out, though. But I won't even get into that. They deserve their own kind of talk in general. So one other thing. What are they made of? Well, like I said, the spirits in general, all this phenomenon is actually made of basically very diffuse chi. And I apologize for not having better terminology, but effectively that's the case. And I'll just back that up by saying, scientifically we know that matter and energy are interchangeable. So there really is no such thing as matter and energy. People typically go, okay, well, there's energy and you condense it either way. That's fine. With the Eastern side of things, you can just call it chi, which is kind of a way of getting around the whole problem because it's really just stuff. Matter is really dense stuff. Ordinary light is just lighter stuff. If you have enough light, you can condense it down and turn it into matter. What's interesting is there seems to be, in my experience, in my personal theories, basically within the typical dimensional structure that we experience as the ordinary world, you typically only experience ordinary matter and ordinary energy. But chi, the more diffuse informational, mental, emotional kind of awareness energy is all around. I mean, it's all together, as we know. Everything is connected. It's all interpenetrating. But science, our conventional picture of things, only deals with the two more dense types of stuff. The lightest type of stuff technically doesn't exist according to science. It's just again, the fact that I'm aware is just an illusion created by my brain, blah, 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 which is complete bunk, in my opinion. I can even, I have a whole structure of my own that I can explain that. That would be quite the doozy. All right. So, wow, an hour and 10 minutes, and that really passed like nothing. But I guess I'll chop this up into segments and post it then. I guess that'll be enough for now. I know that didn't really, I don't know, I didn't really hit ghosts too much. I mostly talked about the Fae there, but whatever. I'll keep trying. Anyway, Brad out. Talk to y'all later.